The massive crystal dome floated in space above the Zaphirian homeworld. Inside the dome, alien generals gathered around a huge table made of black metal. The table showed moving pictures of star systems and planets. Red dots marked human colonies that had spread across space like a disease. General Vexithara stood at the head of the table. She was 12 feet tall with a body like a giant insect. Her skin was hard and shiny like armor. Forearms moved as she pointed at the floating images. Her large eyes could see in many different colors of light. "Look at this mess," she said in a voice that buzzed like angry bees. "The humans have built colonies on 47 worlds in just 20 years. They breed like insects and spread everywhere they go." Admiral Krexnoth coiled his long, snake-like body around another part of the table. His scales changed colors as he moved, showing his anger. "My spies say they have over 50 warships now. Ugly metal boxes with primitive weapons, but still dangerous if we let them grow stronger." General Vexithara's forearms clicked together in what humans would call laughter. 50 ships? We have 300 warships in our Great Armada. Each one is bigger than their largest city. Our smallest gun can turn a moon into dust. The other aliens in the room made similar sounds of amusement. They had conquered 17 star systems using overwhelming force. Their way of war was simple. Bring more ships, bigger guns, and stronger shields than the enemy. It had worked every time. A communication screen flickered to life. The image showed a human woman in a blue uniform. She had short black hair and serious dark eyes. This was Commander Sarah Chen, speaking for all humans in this part of space. "Honored generals," she said, bowing her head slightly. "I come to speak about the growing tension between our peoples. Perhaps we can find a peaceful solution." Admiral Krexnoth's scales turned bright red with anger. "The time for talk is over. Human, your kind has taken too much space that belongs to us." Commander Chen kept her voice calm and steady. "If you choose to attack us, we will defend ourselves, but we hope you will reconsider. War brings suffering to everyone." "What could you possibly do against our Great Armada?" General Vexithara asked. Her mandibles clicked with amusement. "You have toy ships made of scrap metal." The human commander straightened her shoulders. "We may not have your technology, but we have other strengths. We will use guerrilla tactics and asymmetric warfare. We will strike from hiding and fade away before you can respond." The entire War Council erupted in the buzzing, hissing, clicking, sounds that served as laughter for their various species. General Vexithara had to wait several minutes for the noise to die down. "Hiding?" she said, wiping moisture from her large eyes. "Little human, our sensors can detect a single atom moving, wrongly from a distance of 10 light years. There is no place to hide from us." Commander Chen's image flickered as the transmission grew weak. "You underestimate us at your own risk. We are not the same as other species you have conquered." "No," Admiral Krexnoth agreed, his voice dripping with scorn. "You are weaker." The human commander's face showed no emotion. "We shall see. I hope you will remember this conversation when the time comes." The transmission ended, leaving the alien generals staring at a blank screen. For a moment, the war room was quiet. Then General Vexithara began clicking her mandibles again. "Diddy. You hear that? She actually thinks they can fight us with stealth and tricks, as if we were primitive savages who have never seen technology before." Fleet Commander Zartok, whose people looked like walking crystals, chimed in with a sound like breaking glass. "My intelligence reports show that human ships are held together with metal welding and chemical adhesives. They use combustion engines for power instead of fusion reactors. Their weapons fire metal projectiles instead of energy beams," added General Morden, whose species resembled armored bears. "They might as well throw rocks at us." Admiral Krexnoth slithered closer to the star map. "The humans have spread their forces across too many worlds. When we attack, they will not be able to concentrate their defense. We will crush them one colony at a time until only Earth remains." "How long should we give them to surrender?" asked Fleet Commander Zartok. General Vexithara's forearms moved in a dismissive gesture. "No time at all. They have already shown they prefer defiance to wisdom. We will make an example of them that other young species will remember for 1,000 years. The War Council quickly agreed on their battle plan. It was the same strategy they always used because it always worked. The Great Armada would jump into human space in 3 massive formations. The first formation would destroy any military ships they found. The second formation would target orbital stations and space factories. The third formation would bombard the surfaces of human worlds until nothing moved. "What about prisoners?" asked General Morden. "Take their scientists and engineers," Admiral Krexnoth replied. "Kill the rest. We need to send a clear message about what happens to species that expand too quickly into our territory." General Vexithera called up new images on the star map table. These showed the positions where the Great Armada would gather, 300 warships, each one carrying between 5,000 and 15,000 alien warriors. The smallest ship was 3 miles long. The largest could hold an entire human city inside its cargo bays. The humans said they would use guerrilla tactics, she said, still amused by the idea. "But you cannot hide a planet, you cannot make colonies disappear. When they realize their ships cannot protect them, they will beg for mercy." "Will we give them mercy?" asked Fleet Commander Zartok. "We will give them the same mercy they showed the native species on the worlds they have colonized," Admiral Krexnoth answered. "None at all." The alien generals spent the next several hours discussing details of their attack. Which ships would target which human colonies? How many troops to land on each world? What to do with human technology that might be useful? They talked about the war as if it was already over. None of them seemed worried about human resistance. Why should they be? Their intelligence reports showed that the largest human ship was barely 800 meters long. Their most powerful weapon could only damage, not destroy, a Zaphirian cruiser. Human shields could not stop Zaphirian energy weapons. Human engines were too slow to run away from Zaphirian pursuit. "There is one thing that puzzles me," General Morden said as the meeting began to wind down. "Why did the human commander seem so confident? Does she not understand how completely outmatched they are?" General Vexthera clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "Humans are known for their stubbornness. They will fight even when they know they cannot win. It is one of their few admirable qualities." "Or perhaps," Admiral Krexnoth suggested, "she was trying to bluff us into believing they have some secret weapon. Some species try such tricks when they are desperate." "What kind of secret weapon could they possibly have?" Fleet Commander Zartok asked. "Our spies have been watching them for years. They have no energy shielding technology, no faster-than-light communication except for primitive quantum entanglement systems, no weapons more advanced than chemical, explosives, and electromagnetic projectiles. Their computer systems are particularly primitive," General Morden added. "They still use binary code and electronic circuits instead of quantum processors and neural networks." Admiral Krexnoth's scales shifted to a satisfied green color. "Then we have nothing to fear from their desperation. In 72 hours, the Great Armada will begin its jump to human space. In 1 week, the human expansion will be nothing but a bad memory." The War Council dissolved as the various generals and admirals returned to their ships to prepare for battle. Throughout the Zaphirian fleet, crews made final checks on weapon systems and shield generators. Soldiers cleaned their equipment and practiced boarding maneuvers. Officers studied maps of human colonies and planned their attacks. General Vexthera remained in the Crystal Dome for several more hours, staring at the star map and thinking about the war to come. She had been fighting for over 200 years and had never lost a battle. The humans would be no different, from the Korlaxians or the Benthari or any of the other species that had learned too late not to challenge Zaphirian power. Still, something about Commander Chen's confident tone bothered her. The human had spoken like someone who knew a secret. But what secret could the humans possibly have that Zaphirian intelligence had not discovered? General Vexithera clicked her mandibles and dismissed the thought. Humans were known for their unpredictability, but unpredictability meant nothing against superior technology and overwhelming numbers. The Great Armada had 300 ships crewed by the finest warriors in the galaxy. The humans had 50 ships crewed by clever apes who had barely learned to leave their home planet. The outcome of this war was as certain as the rising of suns and the movement of planets in their orbits. In 1 week, the humans would be extinct and the galaxy would be safe from their reckless expansion. Or so the alien generals believed. Commander Sarah Chen's ship, the UES Defiance, drifted in empty space between two asteroid fields. The ship looked like a flying metal box welded together from spare parts. Compared to the elegant alien vessels, it was ugly and crude. But it was home to 3,000 human crew members who had volunteered for what might be their last mission. Chen walked through the narrow corridors toward the main command center. The walls were lined with pipes and cables that carried power, air, and water throughout the ship. Everything was functional but basic. No decorative elements, no artistic touches. Human ships were built for war, not beauty. She entered the command center where dozens of officers worked at simple computer screens. The room smelled of recycled air, coffee, and the sweat of people under stress. Red warning lights blinked on several control panels, indicating that ship systems were running beyond their normal limits. Status report, Chen ordered as she took her position at the central command chair. Lieutenant Torres looked up from his communication station. All fleet captains are standing by for conference, ma'am. Quantum entanglement links are stable. Chen nodded and pressed a button on her chair. The main screen lit up with the faces of 49 other ship captains. These were the commanders of humanity's entire deep space fleet. Men and women who had trained their whole lives for this moment, knowing it would probably be their last. Ladies and gentlemen, Chen began. I've just finished speaking with the Zaphirian War Council. They plan to attack in 72 hours, with 300 ships. Captain Rodriguez of the UES Resilience scratched his gray beard. 300 against 50. Well, I've faced worse odds. When? Asked Captain Martinez of the UES Defiant. Never, but I like to stay optimistic, Rodriguez replied with a grim smile. Chen allowed herself a small smile despite the situation. The good news is that they think we're helpless. They laughed when I mentioned guerrilla tactics. They believe their sensors can detect anything we might try to hide. To be fair, Captain Singh said from the UES Courage, they're probably right about that. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours in most areas. Most areas, Chen agreed. But not all areas. Dr. Blackwood, please brief the fleet on Project Mirage. A new face appeared on the screen. Dr. Elena Blackwood was a thin woman with wild gray hair and intense blue eyes. She had been working on theoretical physics when the war started. Now she was humanity's secret weapon. Captains, Blackwood began, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level. For the past 8 years, a small team of scientists has been working on a project based on quantum mechanics and dimensional theory. She pressed something off screen, and a new image appeared. It showed what looked like a tiny grain of sand, but the image kept shifting and changing as if the object couldn't decide what it wanted to be. This is a quantum displacement mine, Blackwood explained. It's smaller than a grain of rice, but it can affect objects as large as a battleship. The mine exists in a state of quantum superposition until activated by a specific signal. Captain Williams of the UES Determination frowned at the screen. What does it do exactly? It doesn't explode, Blackwood said. Instead, it shifts the target into a parallel dimensional space. From our perspective, the target simply disappears. It doesn't die. It doesn't get destroyed. It just stops existing in our reality. The command conference fell silent. Chen watched the faces of her captains as they tried to understand what they had just heard. Finally, Captain Rodriguez spoke up. That's impossible. You can't just make something disappear. Blackwood's expression remained serious. Captain, quantum mechanics has been proving that impossible things happen every day for over 200 years. Particles that exist in multiple places at once. Information that travels faster than light. Cats that are both alive and dead until someone looks at them. But a whole ship? Captain Singh asked. The mind creates a localized space-time distortion, Blackwood explained. Think of our reality as a sheet of paper. The mind folds that paper so that the target ends up on a different part of the sheet. It's still there, but not in a place where we can reach it. Captain Martinez leaned forward. How many of these minds do we have? We've been seeding them throughout this star system for the past 6 months, Chen answered. Thousands of them, all invisible to normal sensors because they exist in quantum superposition. The aliens won't know they're there until it's too late. How do we activate them? Captain Williams asked. Blackwood's expression grew sad. Each mine is keyed to a specific quantum signature. The signatures are programmed into your ship computers. When a ship broadcasts its signature, any mine within range will lock onto the nearest large mass and activate. The implications of this statement slowly sank in. Captain Rodriguez was the first to understand. You're saying we have to sacrifice ourselves to activate the mines? Not all of you, Chen said quickly. Some ships will need to survive to coordinate the operation and deal with any aliens that escape the minefield. Who decides which ships get sacrificed? Captain Singh asked. Chen straightened in her chair. I do. And I've already made the decision. 47 ships will broadcast their quantum signatures and then engage the alien fleet in conventional combat. They will fight bravely and appear to lose quickly. The aliens will think they've won an easy victory. While the mines activate around them, Captain Martinez said, beginning to understand. Exactly. The remaining 3 ships, including the Defiance, will stay hidden in the asteroid fields and observe. When the minefield has done its work, we'll deal with any survivors. Captain Williams shook his head. This is insane. You're asking 47 crews to die for a plan that depends on untested technology. The technology has been tested, Blackwood said firmly. We've successfully displaced asteroids, space debris, and even a small unmanned ship. The physics are sound, but never anything as large as an alien battleship, Captain Singh pointed out. No, Blackwood admitted. But the math says it should work. The quantum displacement field scales with the amount of energy input. The mines are designed to draw power from the target's own systems. Chen looked at each captain's face on the screen. These people had families, dreams, lives they wanted to return to. She was asking them to give all of that up for a plan that might not work. I know what I'm asking, she said. No one will think less of anyone who chooses not to volunteer for this mission. You can return to Earth and help defend the home system. Captain Rodriguez was the first to speak. Count me in, Commander. The resilience has been patched and repatched so many times that she's barely holding together anyway. Might as well go out in style. The determination volunteers as well, Captain Williams said. If this works, it'll be the greatest military victory in human history. If it doesn't work, at least we'll die fighting instead of running. One by one, the other captains volunteered their ships and crews. Chen felt a mixture of pride and sorrow as she watched humanity's finest officers calmly accept what was essentially a suicide mission. When all 47 ships had volunteered, Chen addressed the fleet one final time. You have 72 hours to prepare your crews. Tell them everything. They deserve to know what they're dying for. Record messages for your families. Make peace with whatever gods you believe in. What about the aliens who get displaced by the mines? Captain Martinez asked. Are they dead? Blackwood answered carefully. They'll be alive but trapped in a dimensional space where time moves differently. They might experience seconds while years pass in our reality or vice versa. They'll be unable to return to our dimension without technology we don't possess. So they'll be prisoners, Captain Singh said. Forever, Blackwood confirmed. Chen saw several captains flinch at this news. Humans had always preferred clean deaths in battle to prolonged suffering, but these were desperate times that called for desperate measures. Any other questions? Chen asked. The screens were quiet for a long moment. Then Captain Rodriguez spoke up again. Just one, Commander. What happens after we win? Chen smiled for the first time since the conference began. After we win, Captain, we'll have shown the galaxy that humanity is not to be underestimated. The other alien species will think twice before attacking us, and maybe, just maybe, we'll have bought enough time for our children to grow strong enough to protect themselves. Then it's worth it, Captain Williams said simply. The conference ended with each captain saluting before their screens went dark. Chen sat alone in the command center for several minutes, staring at the blank screen and thinking about the sacrifice these brave people were about to make. Lieutenant Torres approached her chair. Orders, ma'am? Signal all ships to begin final preparations, Chen said. And Lieutenant, start recording a message to Earth Command. If this plan fails, they need to know what we tried. As the Defiance drifted silently through space, 47 other human ships began preparing for the most important battle in their species' history. In 72 hours, they would face impossible odds with untested weapons and the courage of people who had nothing left to lose. The alien generals thought they were hunting helpless prey. They were about to discover that sometimes the prey can bite back. The Great Armada emerged from hyperspace like a metal storm. 300 alien warships appeared in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with energy shields and weapon ports. Each ship was a masterpiece of alien engineering, built from materials that could withstand the heat of stars and armed with weapons that could crack planets. Admiral Krexnoth coiled around the command throne of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The ship was 15 miles long and carried 20,000 Zaphirian warriors. Its main gun could punch through a moon with a single shot. Around him, hundreds of alien crew members worked at control stations that responded to thought as much. Has touch. All ships report ready for combat, Admiral, his tactical officer announced. The creature was part machine, part biological organism, with optical sensors that could see across 17 different types of radiation. Begin scanning for human vessels, Krexnoth ordered. His scales shifted to a satisfied blue color as he contemplated the easy victory ahead. The tactical display lit up with contacts scattered throughout the star system. Red dots marked the locations of human ships trying to hide behind asteroids and small moons. There were fewer than expected. 47 human vessels detected, the tactical officer reported. They appear to be in retreat formation, heading for the outer system. General Vexithera's voice crackled over the communication system from her own flagship. As predicted, they see our might and flee like cowards. Begin the hunt. No human ship must escape to warn other colonies. The Armada spread out in hunting formation. Each squadron of 10 to 15 ships was assigned a group of human vessels to destroy. The alien captains competed with each other to see who could score the most kills in the shortest time. The first battle began when Squadron 7 encountered a group of 5 human ships near a large asteroid. The human vessels were the UES Valiant, UES Fearless, UES Brave, UES Bold, and UES Honor. They turned to fight instead of continuing their retreat. Captain Thompson of the UES Valiant opened fire first. His ship's main gun launched a projectile at incredible speed toward the lead alien vessel. The metal slug struck the alien shield and vaporized without causing any damage. Human vessel is attacking with kinetic projectiles, the alien squadron leader reported with amusement. Primitive but persistent. The alien ships returned fire with plasma beams that lit up space like artificial lightning. The UES Honor's shields collapsed immediately and the ship's hull began to melt. Emergency pods launched as the crew abandoned ship seconds before it exploded. Human vessel destroyed, the squadron leader announced. 4 vessels remaining. The UES Fearless launched, every missile it carried in a desperate attack. 30 projectiles streaked toward the alien ships, but automated defense systems shot them down before they could reach their targets. Counterfire from 3 alien ships struck the Fearless simultaneously, turning it into an expanding ball of superheated gas. One by one, the human ships died. The UES Brave lasted long enough to ram an alien cruiser, but its hull was too weak to penetrate the enemy's shields. The UES Bold managed to damage an alien ship's sensor array before being vaporized. The UES Valiant fought alone for almost 10 minutes before its reactor overloaded, and the ship disappeared in nuclear fire. Similar scenes played out across the star system as other squadrons found and destroyed their assigned human targets. The alien crews were almost disappointed by how easy it was. They had expected more resistance from a species with a reputation for stubbornness. Squadron 12 has eliminated 6 human vessels near the 4th planet, Admiral Krexnoth received another report. Squadron 3 reports complete destruction of human forces in the asteroid field. Squadron 15 has. The reports continued for 6 hours as the Great Armada systematically hunted down and destroyed the human fleet. By the end of the day, 46 human ships had been reduced to glowing debris scattered across space. Admiral Krexnoth felt a deep satisfaction as he reviewed the battle reports. The campaign was proceeding exactly as planned. Soon they would advance on Earth itself and finish this annoying species once and for all. "Admiral," his tactical officer said, "we're detecting unusual quantum fluctuations throughout the fleet, minor spatial distortions." Krexnoth's attention was focused on casualty reports. The Great Armada had lost exactly 0 ships and suffered damage to only 3 vessels. It was the most one-sided victory in Zaphirian history. "Residual energy discharge from our plasma weapons," he said dismissively. "Continue the advance toward the human homeworld." The Armada began moving in formation toward Earth when something impossible happened. The Stellar Fury, a massive dreadnought, in the 3rd formation, simply vanished. One moment the ship was there, its 8,000 crew members celebrating their easy victory over the humans. The next moment, empty space. No explosion, no debris field, no energy signature. Just nothing where a 5-mile-long warship had been floating seconds before. "Re-establish contact with Stellar Fury," Admiral Krexnoth ordered, his scales beginning to shift to an alarmed yellow color. "Unable to comply, Admiral. No response to communication attempts, no trace of the vessel on any sensor array." Krexnoth stared at the tactical display where the Stellar Fury had been marked with a blue dot. Now there was only empty space. "Ships, don't just disappear. Search for debris." "No debris detected, sir. No radiation signature consistent with reactor explosion or weapon impact. The ship appears to have simply ceased to exist." Before Admiral Krexnoth could respond, 3 more ships vanished in rapid succession. The cruiser Void Hunter disappeared while firing on asteroid fragments. The destroyer Swift Death vanished in the middle of transmitting a routine status report. The battleship Iron Talon simply faded from existence while its crew was eating their evening meal. Panic began to spread through the fleet as captains watched their fellow vessels disappear without warning or explanation. Ships that had existed for centuries, crews that had conquered worlds, technology that had seemed invincible, all vanishing into nothingness. "Admiral." General Vexthara's voice carried a note of fear for the first time in her long military career. "7 ships in my formation have disappeared. What's happening?" Krexnoth had no answer. His scales had turned a pale white color that indicated extreme stress. "All ships maintain formation. Begin deep sensor sweeps for any sign of human activity." The tactical officer's multiple optical sensors swiveled frantically as it processed data from hundreds of different instruments. "Admiral, I'm detecting no human vessels in range. No weapon signatures, no energy sources, no communication signals. Whatever is causing this, it's not coming from any detectable source." Another ship vanished, then 2 more. Then an entire squadron of 12 vessels simply ceased to exist in the span of 30 seconds. The Great Armada, which had seemed invincible, just hours before was being destroyed by an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't detect, and couldn't fight. Captain Morthek of the cruiser Death's Edge sent a panicked transmission. "Something is wrong with space itself. My science officer reports. Massive quantum distortions around the ship. The very fabric of reality is—" The transmission cut off as the Death's Edge disappeared. Admiral Krexnoth realized that his mighty fleet was trapped in some kind of invisible web. Every movement seemed to trigger more disappearances. Ships that tried to retreat vanished. Ships that held position vanished. Ships that attempted to group together for mutual protection vanished. "How many vessels have we lost?" he asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. 215. "Ships, Admiral. The rate of disappearance is accelerating." General Vexithara's flagship appeared on the communication screen. Her forearms were shaking with fear and rage. "Admiral, we must retreat immediately. Whatever the humans have done to this space, we need to leave before we lose the entire fleet." Agreed. All ships. Immediate withdrawal to hyperspace jump points. But when the surviving ships tried to reach the edge of the star system, they discovered that the invisible thread extended along all the hyperspace routes. Ships approaching jump points vanished even faster than those staying in normal space. The Swift Vengeance disappeared while trying to reach jump point Alpha. The Cosmic Hammer vanished at jump point Beta. The Star Killer faded from existence, just as it was about to enter hyperspace at jump point Gamma. "The humans have trapped us," Admiral Krexnoth whispered, his voice filled with horror. "They've turned this entire star system into a killing ground." His tactical officer processed sensor data with increasing desperation. "Admiral, I'm detecting quantum displacement fields throughout the system. They're microscopic but incredibly numerous. Thousands, perhaps millions of them." "What do they do?" "Unknown, sir. The technology is beyond our understanding. But every time one of our ships gets too close to a displacement field, the ship vanishes." General Vexithera's image flickered on the screen as her ship's systems began to malfunction. "How is this possible? Humans are primitives. They can barely build ships that don't fall apart." "Apparently," Admiral Krexnoth said grimly, "we underestimated them." As if to emphasize his point, General Vexithara's flagship disappeared while she was speaking. One moment her angry face filled the communication screen, the next moment static. The remaining alien commanders realized they were facing something completely outside their experience. Their superior technology meant nothing against an enemy that could make ships vanish without warning. Their overwhelming numbers were useless when vessels disappeared faster than they could be counted. By the end of the second day, only 30 ships remained from the original 300. The survivors clustered around Admiral Krexnoth's flagship, afraid to move, afraid to stay, afraid to even transmit messages in case it triggered whatever invisible force was hunting them. "Sir," the tactical officer reported quietly, "I'm receiving a transmission from the human homeworld." "Put it through." Commander Sarah Chen's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired, but satisfied. "Admiral Krexnoth, I believe we spoke before your invasion began." Krexnoth's scales had turned completely black with defeat and humiliation. "What have you done to my fleet?" "We defended ourselves," Chen replied simply. "Just as we said we would." "This is impossible. Humans don't have this kind of technology." Chen smiled slightly. "Admiral, you made the same mistake that many powerful species make. You assumed that because we were weaker in obvious ways, we must be weak in all ways. You never considered that we might be stronger in ways you couldn't see." "What do you want?" Krexnoth asked. "Right now? I want you to return to your home world and tell your people what happened here. Tell them that humanity is not to be trifled with. Tell them that the age of conquest through brute force is over, and my people in the ships that disappeared." Chen's expression grew sad. "They're alive, Admiral. But they're trapped in dimensional spaces where time moves differently than ours. They might experience centuries while minutes pass in our reality, or seconds while years pass here. I don't know if we can bring them back." Admiral Krexnoth stared at the human woman who had destroyed his mighty fleet without firing a single conventional weapon. "You've changed the nature of war itself." "Yes," Chen agreed. "We have. The question now is whether your people are wise enough to accept the new reality." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Krexnoth alone with his 30 surviving ships, and the knowledge that everything his people believed about warfare had just become obsolete. Terror spread through the 30 surviving ships of the Great Armada, like poison in the blood. Crews that had conquered 17 star systems now jumped at every sensor reading, every flicker of the lights, every small noise in the corridor. Warriors who had never known defeat huddled in their quarters, afraid to walk the halls of their own ships. Admiral Krexnoth's flagship drifted in space with its engines shut down. He had ordered all ships to minimize their energy output, hoping that whatever was hunting them might be attracted to power signatures. The bridge crew worked by emergency lighting, speaking in whispers as if loud noises might draw the attention of the invisible enemy. "Status report," Krexnoth said quietly to his tactical officer. 29 ships remaining, Admiral. The destroyer Nightfang disappeared while we were speaking to the human commander. No distress signal, no warning. One moment it was there, the next, the creature's optical sensors dimmed with what might have been grief. "I've never seen anything like this in 300 years of service." General Vexithara was gone. Admiral Krexnoth had watched her disappear in the middle of their conversation, her angry words cut off as her entire ship simply ceased to exist. She had been his rival, sometimes his enemy, but always a worthy opponent. Now she was trapped, in some nightmare dimension that human science had created. Fleet Commander Zartok's crystal voice chimed softly over the communication system. "Admiral, my science officers have been analyzing the quantum distortions. They believe the displacement fields are triggered by proximity to large masses." "How large?" Krexnoth asked. "Anything bigger than a fighter craft, sir. The fields seem to lock onto vessels based on their mass and energy output. The more massive the ship, the more likely it is to trigger a displacement event." Admiral Krexnoth felt his scales shift to a sickly green color. His flagship was one of the largest vessels in the fleet. If Zartok was right, then the Eternal Dominion was a prime target for whatever force was stalking them. "Can we detect these displacement fields?" he asked. "Negative, sir. They exist in quantum superposition until activated. Our sensors can only detect them after they've already triggered, and by then it's too late." Captain Velmar of the cruiser Starpiercer transmitted from across the formation. "Admiral, my crew is requesting permission to abandon ship and return, home in escape pods. They believe smaller vessels might be able to avoid the displacement fields." "Denied," Krexnoth replied firmly. "We don't know if the fields affect small craft or not. I won't risk losing more people to find out." But even as he spoke, Admiral Krexnoth was considering the same option. His ship carried escape pods that could hold the entire crew. Each pod was equipped with a small hyperspace drive capable of making the journey back to Zaphirian space. It would be a humiliating retreat, but at least some of his people would survive. The decision was taken out of his hands when the Starpiercer vanished without warning. Captain Velmar's transmission ended mid-sentence as his ship and 3,000 crew members disappeared into whatever dimensional prison the humans had created. 28 ships. The tactical officer reported with mechanical precision. Hours passed in terrifying silence. The surviving ships drifted in space like ghosts, their crews afraid to move, afraid to sleep, afraid to do anything that might attract the attention of the invisible hunter. Some captains ordered their crews to prayer. Others demanded that their science officers find a solution. A few simply sat in their command chairs and waited for the end. Commander Sarachen's words echoed in Admiral Krexnoth's mind. "You assumed that because we were weaker in obvious ways, we must be weak in all ways." The truth of that statement was now undeniable. The Zaphirians had focused so completely on building bigger guns and stronger shields that they had never considered other forms of warfare. "Admiral," his communication officer whispered, "I'm receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through." This time it wasn't Commander Chen who appeared on the screen. Instead, a human male with graying hair and tired eyes looked back at them. "I am Captain Rodriguez of the UES Resilience. I wanted to speak with whoever is in command of your fleet." Krexnoth stared at the human in confusion. "The Resilience was destroyed. I watched it explode." Captain Rodriguez smiled sadly. "You watched a ship explode, Admiral, but it wasn't the real Resilience. What you destroyed were decoy vessels filled with automated systems and programmed to fight like our real ships." The implications of this statement hit Krexnoth like a physical blow. "The entire battle was fake?" "Not fake," Rodriguez corrected. "Those ships did contain human crews, brave volunteers who knew they were going to die. But they weren't our main fleet. They were bait to draw you into the minefield." "Minefield?" "The quantum displacement devices your ships have been triggering. We've been seeding this star system with them for months, waiting for someone to attack us. We knew we couldn't win a conventional battle, so we changed the rules." Admiral Krexnoth felt a rage building inside him that was mixed with grudging respect. "You sacrificed 47 ships to destroy our fleet." "We sacrificed 47 ships to save our entire species," Rodriguez replied, "and to send a message to the galaxy that humanity will not be conquered easily." "What message is that?" Captain Rodriguez's expression grew hard. "That we're not the helpless primitives you thought we were. That we can think in ways you've never considered. That we'll use any weapon, any tactic, any sacrifice necessary to protect our people." Another ship disappeared while they were speaking. The cruiser Void's Edge simply faded from existence, leaving 27 vessels remaining from the original 300. Your displacement mines are still active, Krexnoth observed. They'll remain active until we choose to deactivate them, Rodriguez confirmed. The mines respond to quantum signatures broadcasted by our ships. As long as we want them active, they'll continue to hunt your vessels. What do you want from us? Captain Rodriguez leaned forward in his chair. We want you to go home, Admiral. We want you to tell your people what happened here. We want the galaxy to know that humanity has teeth. And are people trapped in your dimensional prisons? That depends on your government's willingness to negotiate. The technology exists to retrieve them, but it would require cooperation between our species. Something that seems unlikely given your recent attempt to commit genocide against us. Admiral, Krexnoth watched as 2 more ships vanished in quick succession. The battlecruiser Deathwind and the destroyer Swift Strike simply ceased to exist, their crews joining the thousands already trapped in spaces that existed between dimensions. 25 ships, his tactical officer reported. Fleet Commander Zartok's crystalline voice carried new notes of desperation. Admiral, my engineering teams believe they found a pattern to the disappearances. Ships are vanishing along the hyperspace routes we use to enter this system. As if the mines were placed specifically to trap us, Krexnoth realized. The humans have been watching us for months, Captain Rodriguez confirmed, learning our tactics, studying our ship movements, planning for this exact scenario. You walked into a trap that was designed specifically for you. Admiral Krexnoth studied the human captain's face, looking for any sign of deception or weakness. He found neither. This was a warrior who had outthought and outfought the greatest military force in the galaxy, using nothing but cunning and courage. How? Krexnoth asked. How did a primitive species develop such technology? We're not primitive, Admiral. We're different. While your people focused on bigger weapons and stronger armor, we focused on understanding the universe itself. Physics, mathematics, quantum mechanics. These became our weapons. Our intelligence report said you had no advanced technology. Captain Rodriguez actually laughed. Your intelligence reports were accurate about our ships and weapons. But they missed the most important thing about humans. We don't just use technology, we create it. We innovate, we find new solutions to old problems. 3 more ships disappeared while they talked. The formation that had once numbered 300 mighty warships now consisted of 22 vessels huddled together in fear. Admiral, his tactical officer said quietly, I'm detecting energy buildups in several of the remaining displacement fields. They appear to be preparing for another wave of activations. Krexnoth closed his eyes and tried to think of options. He could order his remaining ships to scatter, but that would only make them easier targets. He could try to fight his way out of the star system, but there was nothing to fight. He could surrender, but his people would never forgive such dishonor. Captain Rodriguez, he said finally, what would it take for you to deactivate the mines and allow my remaining ships to leave? A formal declaration from your government that they will never again attack human territory or colonies. Recognition of humanity's right to exist and expand in this part of the galaxy. And participation in peace negotiations to establish permanent borders between our peoples. And if my government refuses? Captain Rodriguez's expression was grim, but determined. Then your remaining ships will continue to disappear until none are left, and the next fleet your people send will meet the same fate. Admiral Krexnoth realized he was looking at the end of Zaphirian military dominance in this sector of space. A species they had dismissed as weak and primitive had just destroyed 90% of their fleet without losing a single ship in honest combat. I'll need to communicate with my homeworld, he said. You have 6 hours, Rodriguez replied. After that, the mines will activate again and continue their work. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Krexnoth alone with his 22 surviving ships and the knowledge that he would have to report the most devastating military defeat in Zaphirian history to his superiors. As he composed his message to the High Command, another ship vanished. The destroyer Night Hunter simply faded from existence, its crew joining the thousands already trapped in dimensional spaces where time moved differently than in normal reality. 21 ships remained from the great armada that was supposed to conquer humanity in a single day. The hunters had become the hunted, and their prey had revealed teeth that could bite through the strongest armor in the galaxy. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, Commander Sarah Chen stood before the Galactic Council for the first time in human history. The massive crystal amphitheater orbited a neutral star system, its transparent walls offering a view of the cosmos that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Representatives from 43 different species filled the curved rows of seats. Some were humanoid, others resembled insects, plants, or geometric shapes that defied easy description. All of them watched the small human woman who had changed the nature of warfare itself. Chen wore her formal blue uniform with its simple rank, insignia. No decorations, no ceremonial weapons, no display of wealth or power. She looked ordinary compared to the elaborate costumes and natural magnificence of the alien delegates. But every being in the chamber knew that appearances could be deceiving. In the back rows, the Zaphirian delegation sat in positions of reduced honor. Admiral Krex Noth was no longer an admiral. He had been stripped of rank after returning with only 18 ships from his great armada of 300. General Vexithara's fate remained unknown, her consciousness trapped somewhere in dimensional space where time flowed differently than normal reality. Chancellor Mordhai of the Centaurian Republic called the session to order. His species looked like walking trees with golden bark and leaves that changed color with their emotions. Today his leaves were a nervous orange. The council recognizes Commander Sarah Chen, speaking for the human government, he announced in a voice like wind through forests. Chen stepped to the central podium where speakers had been addressing the galaxy's most powerful civilizations for over 1,000 years. She carried no notes, no prepared speech. What she had to say came from her heart and her experiences commanding humanity's defense against impossible odds. Honored delegates, she began. 6 months ago, most of you had never heard of humanity. We were considered a minor species on the edges of civilized space, interesting only for our rapid expansion and primitive technology. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several species had indeed been planning their own attacks on human territory before news of the Zaphirian defeat reached them. Today I stand before you not as a conqueror, but as someone who wants to prevent future wars. What happened in the Sol system should serve as a lesson for all of us about the dangers of underestimating others. Chen activated a holographic display that showed the positions of the displaced Zaphirian vessels. Hundreds of quantum bubbles dotted the star chart, each one containing a ship and crew trapped in spaces between dimensions. These vessels and their crews exist in a state of quantum displacement. They are alive but unreachable in our current reality. The technology to retrieve them exists, but it would require unprecedented cooperation between species. Ambassador Thekvar of the Korlaxian Empire raised one of his forearms. His people resembled armored crabs and had been conquered by the Zaphirians 50 years earlier. Why should we care about Zaphirian lives? They showed no mercy when they conquered our worlds. Chen turned to face the Korlaxian delegate. Because, Ambassador, the same technology that trapped them could be used against any of us. Humanity developed quantum displacement as a defensive weapon, but the principles could easily be adapted for offensive purposes. A chill seemed to pass through the chamber as delegates realized the implications. If humans could make an entire fleet disappear without firing conventional weapons, no species was truly safe. "Are you threatening us?" demanded General Korthak of the Vegan war clans. His species looked like walking crystals and had built their empire on the concept of overwhelming force. "No, General, I'm offering you a choice. We can continue the old way of thinking, bigger weapons, stronger shields, more ships, until someone develops something that makes all of our militaries obsolete. Or we can choose a different path." Chen gestured to the holographic display. "Every species in this chamber has strengths that others lack. The Centaurians understand biology better than anyone else. The Korlaxians are master engineers. The Vegans have perfected energy manipulation. The Zaphirians had the most advanced sensors in the galaxy." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Humanity's strength was never our technology or our weapons. Our strength is our ability to think differently, to find new solutions to old problems. But we can't build a peaceful galaxy alone." Fleet Commander Zartok of the surviving Zaphirian forces spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. His crystalline voice carried notes of defeat and grudging respect. What exactly are you proposing, human? A new approach to galactic civilization, Chen replied. Instead of conquest and domination, we focus on cooperation and mutual defense. Instead of hiding our knowledge from each other, we share it to solve common problems. Chancellor Mordhai's leaves shifted to a skeptical yellow. You speak of sharing knowledge, but you've demonstrated a weapon that could destroy any fleet in the galaxy. Why should we trust you with such power? Chen smiled sadly. Because, Chancellor, we've already proven that we don't want to use it. We could have displaced every Zaphirian ship in their fleet, but we allowed 18 vessels to survive so they could carry word home. We could have used the same technology against other species, but instead we're offering to help you develop defenses against it. Defenses? General Korthak leaned forward in his crystalline seat. Such technology exists? It could exist, Chen confirmed. Quantum displacement can be countered by properly configured shield generators. The mathematics are complex, but not impossible. However, developing such defenses would require cooperation between multiple species. The chamber fell silent as delegates processed this information. Chen was offering to share the secrets of the most powerful weapon ever developed, but only if the galaxy agreed to work together instead of fighting each other. Ambassador Thekvar spoke again. What about our people who are trapped in your dimensional prisons? The Korlaxians lost 12 ships in previous conflicts with the Zaphirians. Their crews are trapped in similar conditions. Chen nodded. All displaced crews could potentially be retrieved using advanced quantum manipulation technology. But such a project would require resources and expertise from multiple civilizations. No single species could accomplish it alone. How do we know you're not simply trying to gain access to our technology? Demanded a delegate from the Epsilon Collective, whose species resembled living metal. Because, Chen replied, we've already demonstrated our good faith. Dr. Elena Blackwood, the scientist who developed quantum displacement theory, has prepared complete technical specifications for the displacement process. We're prepared to share this information with all members of the Council. The implications of this offer sent shockwaves through the chamber. Humanity was volunteering to give away the secrets of their ultimate weapon to potential enemies. Why? Chancellor Mordhai asked simply. Chen looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from species that had been at war with each other for centuries. Because we've learned something that I hope you can learn too. The universe is too big and too dangerous for us to waste time fighting each other. There are threats out there that we haven't even discovered yet. When those threats emerge, we'll need to stand together or fall separately. She activated another part of the holographic display, showing deep space sensor readings from human exploration ships. Our long-range scouts have detected evidence of civilizations that make all of us look primitive. Ancient structures that dwarf entire star systems. Technology that manipulates space and time on scales we can barely comprehend. The chamber erupted in surprised voices as delegates saw the sensor data. Structures that appeared to be millions of years old, clearly artificial but beyond the understanding of any known species. These discoveries are recent, Chen continued when the noise died down. We don't know who built these structures or whether their creators still exist. But we do know that if such beings still exist and decide that we're a threat, our petty wars won't matter anymore. General Korthak's crystalline form seemed to dim with worry. You believe these ancient beings might attack us? I believe that we need to be prepared for possibilities we haven't considered yet, Chen replied. And the best way to prepare is to work together, share knowledge, and develop technologies that no single species could create alone. Fleet Commander Zartok rose from his seat. If the Council agrees to this cooperation, will humanity help retrieve our displaced crews? Yes, Chen answered without hesitation. All of them. Zaphirian, Korlaxian, and any others who might be trapped in dimensional spaces. We won't leave anyone behind if we can help it. Chancellor Mordhai's leaves shifted to a thoughtful green. This would represent a fundamental change in how galactic civilization operates. We would need to establish new institutions, new laws, new ways of sharing resources and information. Yes, Chen agreed. It would be the hardest thing any of us have ever attempted. But the alternative is to continue fighting each other until someone develops a weapon that makes quantum displacement look like a children's toy. The debate continued for hours as delegates argued about details, safeguards, and implementation. But the fundamental question had been answered. The galaxy's most powerful civilizations were willing to try cooperation instead of conquest. 3 days later, the Galactic Cooperation Accord was signed by representatives from 38 species. The agreement established shared research facilities, joint defense protocols, and most importantly, a commitment to resolving conflicts through negotiation rather than warfare. As Chen prepared to return to Earth, Fleet Commander Zartok approached her with a request. When your scientists begin working to retrieve our displaced crews, I would like to assist them. I have technical knowledge that might prove useful. Chen shook the Zaphirian's hand in the human gesture of friendship. We'd be honored to have your help, Fleet Commander. This kind of project will need the best minds from all our species. 6 months after alien generals had laughed at human strategy, humanity had not only survived, but changed the galaxy itself. The age of conquest was ending, and the age of cooperation was beginning. It would not be easy. Old hatreds would take time to heal. New challenges would test their resolve. But for the first time in galactic history, the greatest civilizations in the cosmos were working together instead of against each other. And in the depths of space, ancient structures waited silently for the day when the young species of the galaxy would be ready to face whatever challenges the universe held in store.